I think what happened in Japan, and I want to be careful because, as you know, I was the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I'm not the chairman today. But as far as one can discern, and most of what I've discerned comes from public records, what's in the public arena. This was a classic example of what I call intersecting vulnerabilities, namely the perfect storm of things happening all at once. The loss of the shutdown of the reactors, the loss of the off-site power, and the backup power being essentially wiped out by the tsunami. Now, one can make various arguments and raise various questions about what could or couldn't have been done or should not have been done. But the truth of the matter is that each industrial facility is designed to withstand some set of phenomena. They call it the design basis catastrophe. So this plant had a series of events that went beyond the design basis of the plant. Now, in terms of being concerned, let me harken back to 3 Mile Island. The 3 Mile Island, for different reasons, we actually had the core in one of the reactors uncovered. There was actual damage of the core, partial meltdown, etc. But as far as can be discerned, no real public health effects in the short or the long term. Now, the Japanese situation is a little different because of apparent high degrees of contamination locally. But as far as global impact, Chernobyl was much bigger, and for reasons that we could talk about, but I won't spend the time. Our big focus has to be for the Japanese, compassion for them, the need to stabilize those plants, the need to restore infrastructure, and to get people back into their homes. There is a lot of hype and a lot of hysteria about impact here. But the real impact is on the Japanese. It is a serious situation.
Questions here in the audience, but I do want to ask this. As I understand it, most of the radiation leaks here came because the structure that was holding the spent plutonium fuel rods, which have quite a long half-life, cracked apart under the combined pressure of the quake and the tsunami. I don't think anybody ever thought there'd be a quake measured this intensely. And I guess the question that I would want to know as an American, let me make full disclosure. When I was governor of Arkansas, we had the longest continuously operating nuclear power plants in America. They're about 150 miles from the biggest earthquake fault in the central part of the country, the Nevada Fault. We had one minor malfunction and the thing shut down just like it was supposed to. I am not a visually anti-nuclear person, but what scared me about Japan and its application to America is with the lack of resolution about what should be done with nuclear waste. As a practical matter, could the Japanese have designed something that would not have cracked if it had been physically present where this was? That's what bothered me, and the only thing that bothered me is about that.
Well, so let's talk very quickly. There are two places where you worry about effect. One is the reactor itself, and the other has to do with the spent fuel, meaning the used up rods, but they have very interesting radionuclides of various kinds that can do various things to it. They're stored in pools until they cool down enough, and then they're put in dry casts. So if you want to do a vulnerability analysis, that's where you have to focus, on the reactor itself and on these spent fuel pools. And it seems, but any spent fuel pool, if it loses the water, will uncover that fuel. And when it uncovers it, things start to disintegrate because it's very hot. And so that's the concern. And they have spent fuel pools that have plutonium because they use mixed oxide fuel. But plutonium is not volatile. That's why I say, well, you need to worry about the Japanese.
I agree with that.
Because it is there. What comes through the air has an 8-day half-life. That's the radioactive item.
Okay, let's go to the questions from the audience. First question was submitted via text for Chad. In your experience, what is the most impactful way in which social media, like YouTube,